There are moments in royal life that slip past quietly, unnoticed by most, only to be talked about for days afterward. They are not the grand ceremonies or the carefully planned speeches. They are the small, unscripted flashes of honesty that remind everyone watching that behind the crowns and the carriages, there are real people living real lives. And sometimes, the most real person in the room is the smallest one. Prince Louis, the youngest child of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, has built quite a reputation for himself over his short years on this earth. He is the boy who pulled faces at the Platinum Jubilee while the world watched and laughed. He is the one who waves with his whole body, who cannot seem to contain his excitement no matter the occasion, who reminds every parent watching that children will always be children, regardless of what title comes before their name. He is, by most accounts, the most unfiltered member of the royal family, and it is precisely that quality, that wonderful, unguarded honesty, that recently left the entire country stunned. What happened was not loud. It did not unfold on a grand stage or get announced through an official palace statement. It happened quietly, at a Christmas carol service inside Westminster Abbey, during an evening designed around warmth, gratitude, and togetherness. And in the middle of all that warmth, a young boy with a small card and a big personality said something, and did something, that people simply could not stop talking about. To understand why this moment hit so deeply, it helps to understand who Prince Louis is and how he came to be so beloved. He was born on the 23rd of April, 2018, at St. Mary's Hospital in London. His arrival was greeted with the kind of celebration that only royal births can produce. Bells rang across the city. People gathered outside the hospital with flowers and flags. And when William and Catherine stepped out to introduce their third child to the world, there was a feeling that something joyful had just arrived, something light and good. His full name, Louis Arthur Charles, carries the weight of history. It honors his grandfather, now King Charles III, and pays tribute to Lord Louis Mountbatten, one of the most significant figures in modern royal history. But the boy himself seems unbothered by any of that history. He wears his name lightly, the way he seems to wear everything, with an easy, natural confidence that draws people to him. From his very first public appearance at Trooping the Color in 2019, it was clear that Prince Louis was not going to be a quiet presence. Standing on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, barely old enough to fully understand the occasion, he waved and pointed and looked around with the kind of delight that no protocol can manufacture. The crowd loved him immediately, and that love has only grown since. His parents have worked hard to give all three of their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, something that is rare in royal life, a sense of normalcy. They live at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, a modest home by royal standards, where the children play in the garden, help with baking, and spend weekends the way millions of other British families do. Louis, being the youngest, has always had the particular freedom that comes with that position. He watches, he copies, he tests boundaries, and he makes everyone around him laugh while doing it. His relationship with his siblings is one of the most charming things about him. Princess Charlotte, his older sister, is widely believed to be his closest companion in the family. She is patient with him in a way that speaks to genuine affection. There is a well-known moment from a Christmas carol service where Louis, sitting beside Charlotte, attempted to blow out her candle during the service. Charlotte did not fuss. She simply continued, gently managing the situation with a composure that would impress someone twice her age. It was a perfect snapshot of their relationship, Louis testing the edges of everything, and Charlotte holding steady, with quiet love. With his older brother George, the dynamic is different but equally warm. George is more reserved by nature, more aware of the weight that his future carries. But around Louis, something loosens in him. The two boys share a sense of humor, a love of simple pleasures, and the kind of easy companionship that only brothers who genuinely like each other can have. Louis brings out a lightness in George that the public rarely gets to see. And then there is his love of drumming. Prince William has mentioned it in passing, with the kind of half-amused, half-exhausted tone that any parent of a child with a drum kit will immediately recognize. But even in that gentle complaint, there is warmth. Louis is allowed to be loud. He is allowed to be himself. That is perhaps the greatest gift his parents have given him. His relationships with his grandparents are equally telling. He shares a genuine closeness with his maternal grandparents, Carol and Michael Middleton. Carol, in particular, has always been deeply involved in her grandchildren's lives. She bakes with them, plays with them, and provides the kind of uncomplicated, unconditional love that grandparents are uniquely suited to give. Lewis's Christmas card message, the one that set the country talking, was written for her and Michael. In his small, careful handwriting, he thanked his grandparents for playing games with him. It was a simple message. It was also perfect, and it told everyone exactly where his deepest sense of comfort lies. He also shares a meaningful connection with King Charles, his paternal grandfather. Charles, despite the enormous demands of his role, has made time for his grandchildren. He connects with Lewis through nature, through quiet walks and gentle conversations about the world around them. There is something touching about the image of a king crouching down to point out a bird or a flower to a small boy who is vibrating with restless energy. Charles seems to understand that these small moments matter more than anything ceremonial. And then there is Queen Camilla. This is where the story becomes more layered, more human, and ultimately more interesting than any formal royal announcement could ever be. The relationship between Prince Louis and Queen Camilla has never been simple to define. It is not cold. It is not hostile. But it is also not the kind of warm, effortless closeness that he clearly shares with the Middletons or with his parents. It occupies a quieter space, one that the public has watched with curiosity and, at times, with questions they could not quite put into words. There have been genuinely warm moments between them. At Sandringham on Christmas Day, during the traditional walk to church, Queen Camilla was seen placing her hand gently on Louis's back to guide him along the path. He looked up at her with a calm, open expression, and for a moment, the distance that people had imagined between them seemed to dissolve entirely. It was natural, it was human, and it reminded everyone watching that relationships are rarely as fixed as the stories told about them. Camilla has also spoken about Louis publicly, with obvious affection. During one engagement, she described him as the kind of child who walks into a room and immediately changes its energy, lighting it up with his presence. She said it with a genuine smile, the kind that cannot be practiced or performed. The crowd laughed with her, recognizing the portrait she was painting. A small boy, full of life, impossible to ignore. And yet the Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey told a more complicated story. The evening had been organized by Catherine, Princess of Wales, as a celebration of kindness and community. The abbey glowed with soft light and gentle music. Guests had been invited to write messages of gratitude on red cards, which were then placed on a tree as a living display of appreciation. The idea was beautiful in its simplicity, a chance for everyone in that room, royal or not, to pause and think about who had made their life a little better. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis arrived together, each holding their own card. George and Charlotte clutched theirs close to their chests, keeping their messages private in the spirit of the evening. Louis, being Louis, held his card openly, face outward, visible to anyone who happened to look. His message was addressed to his grandma and grandpa. He thanked them for playing games with him. The handwriting was careful, the words were simple, and the love in them was entirely unmistakable. People smiled. People melted, honestly. There is something about a child's unedited affection that cuts straight through everything else and reminds the world what actually matters. But it was what was not written on that card that quietly caught people's attention. Queen Camilla's name was absent. In a room full of gratitude, in an evening built around appreciation and warmth, the card from the youngest prince did not include her. This was not announced. It was not addressed by anyone officially. But people noticed. Those present noticed. Those who later heard about it noticed. And the conversation that followed was one of the most genuinely human discussions the royal family had sparked in some time. It is important to be careful here, because children are not making political statements when they write Christmas cards. Prince Louis is a young boy who wrote about what was real and immediate to him. The grandparents he plays games with, the people whose house feels easy and fun and safe. Children write what they know. They write what they feel in the most uncomplicated way possible. And that honesty, rather than being a bombshell aimed at anyone, is actually the most innocent thing in the world. But innocence, when it lands in a complex situation, can say things that no adult would dare say out loud. Later in the evening, a brief exchange occurred that drew further attention. Lewis, in his characteristically direct way, said something during a quiet moment that caused those nearby to look up. The details were not fully captured, but the effect was clear. William and Catherine responded swiftly, as good parents do, gently guiding their son. Catherine bent down to him with the quiet reassurance she always seems to carry. William watched with a look that mixed mild surprise with understanding. Nearby, Queen Camilla remained composed. Her expression did not change. She carried on with the evening with the kind of practiced steadiness that has defined her public life for decades. The moment passed. The music continued. The kindness tree stood covered in small red cards, each one carrying someone's quiet truth. What this evening revealed was not a crisis or a scandal. It was something far more honest than either of those things. It was a glimpse into the unwritten emotional landscape of a family that, like all families, is held together by some bonds that are strong and easy, and shaped by others that are still finding their form. Prince Louis did not stun the country with cruelty or calculation. He stunned it with the one thing children do better than anyone. He told the truth, simply, without realizing how loudly the truth would echo. Queen Camilla's place in the royal family has been built slowly, over many years, through patience and dedication. Her relationship with the younger generation is still finding its footing, shaped by history that predates Louis's birth and by the steady, quiet work of time. A child's Christmas card does not define that relationship, but it does offer a window into where things currently stand, seen through the clearest possible eyes. Prince Louis is still very young. His world is still being built, one experience at a time. The bonds he forms now will continue to grow and shift and deepen as he does. There is every reason to believe that as the years pass, the connections he has not yet fully formed will find their own warmth and their own shape. For now, what the country saw in that abbey was a boy who knows exactly who he loves. He wrote it down in careful letters, held it up for everyone to see, and reminded the world that sometimes the most powerful royal messages come from the smallest hands.